Hello guys, welcome back to Pause and welcome to another Planet Zoo Spotlight video. So today we are taking a look at the 17-minute long kind of in-game trailer type gameplay footage thing that Frontier put out a few days ago on Twitch and also just today on YouTube, and I think there's a few new little pieces in the footage that was released today. So again, apologies that I've not been here over the past week. I have been away, so we are now back with all the E3 content. So if you do want to stay up to date with all the latest breaking news from Planet Zoo, other than last week because I wasn't here, but moving forward, make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all of the content. So we're going to have a look through this trailer, this sort of look at a few of the gameplay features and in-game footage of Planet Zoo. Right then, so let's begin with, before we go into anything that's in the actual shot in game, let's talk about the UI. So at the bottom of the screen we've got a very similar looking UI to that of Planet Coaster, obviously with a few little tweaks. Zoo management obviously replaces the theme park management. Trading, I can only assume, is animal trading, so you can maybe buy and sell different animals to different zoos. Moving along that top level, we've got barriers, so they're the different fencing and things for your zoo enclosures. Habitat will be all the enrichment items and also things to build like shelters and all that kind of stuff. Nature, obviously there we're looking at plants and flowers and trees and bushes and stuff. Zoo facilities will probably be things like your veterinarian and zookeeper huts. We might have shops and toilets and things in there as well. Construction is probably where all your building pieces are. So if you want to put in like a normal building, like in Planet Coaster, that I think will be in there. Blueprints, again, very similar to Planet Coaster. There will be all stuff you can put up on the Steam Workshop and also equally download stuff from the workshop as well to put in the game. Over to the side, paths, terrain and multi-selection, exactly the same as we've got currently. Down to the bottom level, there's a little sort of switch button on the left, not sure what that will do yet, but I'm sure we'll find out. Moving along, we've got the money. I'm assuming the next one is our animal rating, I would assume that is. Then we've got the amount of guests in the park. Then we've got our guest satisfaction rating, is what I assume that is. And then a little smiley face emoji, which probably tells us what the general consensus of the park is. Moving along a bit further on the right hand side, we've got the undo and redo buttons, same as in Planet Coaster. Then we've got the weather and time of day, which we will see a little bit better a bit later on in this, so I will pause when we get to there. Then we've got the temperature and what the weather's doing, year, date and all that kind of stuff, and then the pause and different speeds at the end. So I just want to go through the UI first of all, as it's just a little bit new and it gives us a little overview of the different sections we're going to have. Remember, this is all in alpha footage that we're watching here, so things are subject to change, but let's crack in and let's get started. So let's move on to the footage. So what can we see already? An amazing amount of new stuff. So there obviously is an African feel to the theme in here. These incredible sort of gold bronzy pieces which look awesome, and as we get through we'll see a load more stuff from this first African pack. So as you can see in the background, we've got a few of these massive trees which just scream Animal Kingdom to me. So yeah, let's play it along a little bit further and we'll see a few bits in action. So as we get down here, you can see all these little statues and different wooden pieces. We've got all these like masks and bits of wood here over the pathways. It looks so good. Fire torches there as well on the path. You can see from this that the peeps are very similar to that of Planet Coaster, and they are grouped in a very similar way. Moving on forward here, you can see a little glimpse out of a shop just on the right hand side. We've got some sort of flowers and basins to put your planters for your flowers. Again, another little hut on the left hand side here, probably more for show, but you could put anything in that, a toilet, a shop, whatever you want. Moving on, now we can see another piece by piece building. The one on the right hand side here, you can see is the toilets, very similar to the Planet Coaster toilets, just a box basically that people walk in and out of. And then on the left hand side, what looks to be a little market, kind of food area. Again, really well done with the thatch roof and these lovely sort of African support pieces that are in there. So yeah, as we keep moving on, you can see a few there, a few benches. There's a little bit of theming in the middle there. It looks like a sort of metal tiger or lion or something, which is great. A few of those food outlets at the back. Obviously, the specifics on the food outlets we don't know just yet, but that hopefully will be announced down the line. A few more pieces here of your kind of African village kind of pieces there. On the left, we've got like tribal stuff, which on it looks so good. It looks so good. Very quickly, I will just mention here, we will touch on it a little bit later on, but just to the back where you can see that staff member, and there's a sign that looks like a guy wearing a hat. That is the new staff-only path, so employee paths are now in, or are going to be in Planet Zoo. So like I say, we'll touch on that a little bit more later on. So again, the pathway here, you can see it's very similar to that of Planet Coaster, but looking just underneath the path, you can spot a new safari jeep. So this is one of the transport rides. So that makes the second confirmed transport ride. We've got the train, and now we've got the safari jeeps. They're going to work very similar to that of Planet Coaster's rides, where you can completely customize the track, the colour, the speed, and all that kind of good stuff. Now, as we move up here into the sort of savannah view, these two billboards that you can see in front of us here are generated. Well, you put them down as the player, but their content is generated depending on what animals are closer. So these act as the education to the guests. So depending on what enclosure you put these near would obviously depend on what animal shows on them. As you upgrade your education levels in the parks and in your zoos, the information on these screens will get better and better, and then you're obviously in turn your guest education ratings will get higher and higher as well. So very interesting feature this, and I'm sure there's going to be other kind of screens and stuff that we can put our own footage on as well, but these are in-game sort of procedurally generated signs that you can put down and choose where you want to put them, if that makes sense. So we keep moving on here. You can see a lovely overview of this sort of savannah with the giraffes. It's dead centre. You can see a couple of enrichment items. There's sort of like a tyre, and I think I'm guessing the one sort of centre right is something they're going to rub up against. The metal structure on the very right hand side of the screen is the giraffe feeder. Obviously in this shot it's empty because it gives you a good indication of just how tall they are, and obviously they have to be. And you can see in the background there are some other little animals in the back, which is another evidence here that you can have more than one type of animal in different enclosures, in the same enclosure, which obviously we thought we were in it anyway. But yeah, it just gives you a really good overview of this. It looks extremely good, like the level of detail just in the little ear twitches and everything just looks so real and alive. Here's a very quick look at the stats when you click on an animal. So this is a giraffe. It gives us all the status, the welfare checks here, so it tells us what it needs, what it doesn't need, is it happy, and all that kind of stuff. Moving on down to the bottom where it says call staff, obviously this is where we can call for a keeper if we need to, a vet if again we need to call a vet, and you can request quarantine, so I assume that is if he becomes ill or is fighting or something like that. Move down the bottom, obviously if you want to move to a different enclosure. And then across the top of the actual menu here we've got all these different icons, which at the moment we don't really know what they do, but yeah, as we get more closer to launch, I'm sure we'll get more information on all the exact stuff we can see with these animals. But so far it looks very in depth. Everything is very much in depth, so that's great moving forward. So really close-up cameras of all the animals, and this gives you just a great overview of just the level of detail that they've put in. It's so well done, and every single animal is unique. They're made and created using a sort of very sophisticated DNA software. The kids of the offspring of two adults will keep some of the same traits, but they will look slightly different. So every single animal in theory should look different and act different, have their own personalities, which is a great feature. So here we go. In this same enclosure, we've got the Springbok, which again, very, very similar kind of little status page, and gives us, this one looks a bit happier actually than the giraffe. And again, close-up camera to see it in the flesh. And again, amazing levels of detail. And the animation, I know I keep saying it, but it's so good. It's the best animal animation I've seen in any kind of game like this, which it would be. There hasn't been a new one of these for many years, but it is incredible. And just look at the different hair and the texture. Oh, it's so good. I dread to think how warm my PC will run when we get this game on the go. But yeah, it's beautiful. Really is beautiful. And again, just even in the background, like taking away from the animals, look at the scenery and the trees and everything. Oh, I can't wait to get playing. I honestly cannot wait to get in this. So moving on, little piece there. I don't know if anyone caught that. The dung on the floor, as that giraffe walked past, he kicked it. So even stuff like dung is going to be. It's got gravity. It's got purpose. It's got a place. So the fact that the animals can interact with little things like that, even, it's such a quality level of detail. So yeah, I just thought I'd point that out. So in the background there, again, we can see a little Jeep. Again, I can't wait to play with that. It could make some amazing little safari parks. And there's the overview of this area. It looks fantastic. And in the background, you can just see the little keeper there, walking around, sucking up the poo, and just generally cleaning the enclosures. That just shows you there how close you'll be able to get using the Jeep ride. You can get so close to these animals, and the building there in the background as well. And we'll talk more about the buildings and stuff in terms of enclosures when we talk about weather a bit later on. But yeah, obviously you have to make them nice and high so your giraffes can fit inside. Gorgeous animation there, just on laying down. I mean, it's gorgeous. It really is. Then we can see there, obviously, a lovely little heightened viewing area into the enclosure over that lovely bridge. So just gives you an example of just some of the things you can do to create these amazing zoos. Now, so we're quickly moving past the elephants, and we're heading over to what I believe here are the zebras and the wildebeest, which is the first we've seen of the wildebeest in this reveal. So yeah, they're confirmed. And again, shows that cohabitation of the different animals, and gorgeous again, the zebras and all the stripes. Notice the stripes are all different on the different animals. Here in the background, you might just slightly be able to see we've got a bit of backstage. So there is going to be power and water and lighting and energy kind of usage, as well as the main key bits to the animals. So there's a lot more management side of this game than there is in Planet Coaster. So some of the stuff they've kind of taken from, well, the ideas taken from Jurassic World, where you've got to put in power stations and stuff. So yeah, that kind of thing is in this game, but there's more details that will be released down the line. But that's just a little look at what looks to me like a water filtration area. So here we go, moving on with the animals. So it was said that even if it's not the same species, certain animals will still group together as a pack. So a wildebeest and a zebra can still walk and act in a pack together, in a group. So yeah, they will group together if you put them in the right animals together anyway. Here you can see the wildebeest scratch them against one of the enrichment items, and it keeps them happy, so make sure we put those in. Again, gorgeous animation on that. Okay, so here is another look at the little GP ride safari thing as we move over. Just look at the amount of people in this zoo. It's so busy, but it's great. It's good. It's good to see it busy. That's the whole point, isn't it? To make it busy and and happy. It doesn't look like it is. That little frowny face at the bottom, not so happy. Right, here we're going to talk about the, I believe they're saltwater crocodiles. I think. Sorry if I got that wrong. So yeah, again, a gorgeous animation in the water, and it's great to see things actually swimming and interacting with the terrain and the water. So these things look gorgeous. They really do. And again, these are perfect kind of animals to have an underwater viewing area. So this little section here, which you're looking at, is a look in the terrain tab just there in the menu. Now, what this is showing us is the terrain distribution of the enclosure that this animal is in, and it basically shows you what needs improvement. So those white bits are sort of where they need to be. So, for example, the grass short is perfectly in that 19% area, so it's got enough grass. But however, soil is slightly lacking, so this enclosure needs more soil. Here you can see that there is environment, so this shows you the continents where these originally are from, shows you the best biomes to keep them in, gives you an idea of the different plants for coverage and suitability. And then down below it does show you which plants are best suited for this animal. So each individual animal has its own needs, as we know from these kind of games, so you have to make sure you are keeping everything to the liking of the animals, otherwise the guests will see it, the animal happiness will decline, and we don't want that. Here we've got the enrichment, so food enrichment and toy enrichment and bedding give you different ratings. So obviously food and toy enrichment are quite low, bedding is high, so it's happy. So again, it's reading through all these things to make sure these animals are all happy. Also at the top there, it gives you the navigable. I can't even say that word. Navigable terrain. So basically, what terrain can this animal climb on? So that obviously looks like it can climb up and swim in water. I assume that would obviously change depending on the animal. So here it needs more soil, it tells you that. So over to the train tool, which is very similar to that of Planet Coaster. You can just click the train. And then in real time, the stats of that animal will update. So you are slowly updating that to get it into that lovely 21% of soil, which makes it happy. So there's a lot of little tweaks to do to make sure all the animals are happy, but that's great. It's good to see that the level of detail that they've thought about here with the saltwater crocodiles. And yeah, even though they are asleep, it is still very well textured, and still got that slight little movement to them, as you would expect. It's breathing and moving and having a little sleep, so it's great. Here is another little enrichment item, looking at the dogs, the wild dogs. The texture on these doesn't look great at the moment. I'm assuming it's still a work in progress. Here is another one of the enrichment items. This is a bag of hanging meat that they can play with. But yeah, the actual texture on those, I assume it's still a bit of a work in progress. Right, here let's talk about this. So this is the main zoo management UI. So we've got quite a bit on here, so let's talk about it. So first of all, this is our Savannah Sandbox. That's the map that we're in. Gives us our opening hours there, ticket prices, zoo land tax, so that's something that's quite new. So land utilised and yearly tax costs, so that's obviously something that's going to come into play, probably more so in the campaign of this. General guest happiness levels there and total guests. In the middle, it sort of tells us where our most appealing animals are. In this case, it's the African elephants. How many animals in this park? 86. The different types of species and the animal average welfare. So it looks like it's just over 3 stars. Then down at the bottom, we've got total staff and yearly wages. I'm assuming this is still a bit work in progress. It is alpha, so I'm sure there'll be numbers eventually. Then down below, it gives us the numbers of how many staff we've got. So it looks like there's no mechanics, 17 keepers, no vets, 3 I guess clinical staff, the cleaners, no security, and 21 shop vendors. Over to the right hand side, we've got the zoo reputation, so this is 3 stars. It gives us the star ratings of each of the other categories: animals, conservation, education, scenery, guest happiness, and then a little section on finances, and we are losing money very badly. And then inspector, so yeah, makes sense, you have to be inspected to make sure your zoo is up to standards, and this one was given a 3 star.
So just a quick overview there of the Zoo Overview UI. Then we switch here into the staff, very, very similar to the way the Planet Coaster staffing is laid out. Only slight variances, just a few of the icons and a few bits have been changed from words to actual images. But yeah, it gives you the idea. So we're hiring on this footage here a new zookeeper. So he comes over, looks in the enclosure here of the dogs and notices they need food. So he heads back into one of the new features that has been added here in Planet Zoo. Oh, actually, before we mention the building, the path he's walking on here is a employee-only path. So we'll see the selection for that in a few minutes. But yeah, this is an employee-only path. So he comes over here into his zookeeper's building. Now there's two buildings here. The one he's going into is the zookeeper's building, which we'll see in a more detail in a second. The building on the right is also another building with an interior. I believe, or we believe as a community, that is a staff room. Or it could be maybe for the vet, possibly. But yeah, it is another building strictly for staff only. And it's so great to see that they actually have interiors now. And as you see as we go inside, it looks amazing. Such a perfect level of detail. Like in Planet Coaster, the underneaths of rides and trains and coasters and all that kind of stuff is well sculptured and detailed, but this is another level. So the keeper is coming here, he's grabbing all the stuff, he's making it, throwing it into a bucket, and then takes it back out. But just look at the level of that. I mean, you're very rarely ever going to see this, but they've took the time to make it. It's not just a black box, and I really do appreciate the fact that they've done that, because it was a bit of a cop-out in Planet Coaster to just put a black box in like they did with the hotels and the restaurants. So no, it's really, really good to see that this level of detail hopefully will expand into the other areas of the game and our Trust Frontier, and I'm sure that's what they'll do. So yeah, the keeper's come in, made the food, heads back out to the enclosure and drops it into the sort of food tray. The animals will notice this and they will come rushing straight over and then start eating, which we'll see in a second. So yeah, really, really good. Great feature, the fact that you can see it happen. It's not just the keepers appearing food out of nowhere. And obviously you can have unlimited of those buildings, unlimited keepers. One thing they have finally mentioned in this, taking a bit of inspiration from Parkitect, guests don't want to see your backstage areas. So that's why the main reason they've put in these employee paths. But yeah, guests will get unhappy if they can see all your backstage on show. So that takes us over here into a new tab, which is staff paths. Here we have 4 different variants in this biome. I don't know if that will expand as the game comes out, but so yeah, it's good to see that we've finally got staff paths, and here you can see how it works. So they do link up to the normal pathways, but the paths themselves, guests will not go down there. The signage, I suppose, is optional, but it's good to have our own little signs. So right, moving on then, we are having another little overview area here through the zoo. This little section here, I'll just pause it. So here we go. Right, so we've got this new sign, which is Sunset Point. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that will be an editable sign. If it is, it looks like they've made some major upgrades to the signage, which is needed. The Planet Coaster ones are a little bit dodgy. In the background, just behind the Sunset Point sign on the right, you might be able to see a little directional sign. So again, hopefully these kind of things you can edit and make them look a little bit nicer. Over to the left, we've got these 2 elephant statues, and then an array of different sort of African buildings and benches. And then sort of to the front and centre now, you can see 3, just before we go back, 3 what look like billboards. Again, I hope these are advertisement or maybe education based as well. So here you can sort of see it looks like it's a hot dog squad and a gulpy. So these are current Planet Coaster shops. Whether they're going to add new ones and upgrade the names and all that kind of stuff, obviously only time will tell, but currently that's what we've got in there. But a really amazing bit of theming around the building in this sort of African style.
Okay, so we're just passing by the chimps. We'll talk about that more in a few minutes. Before we do that, we're just having another overview here of the savannah. It gives us a great look at the station and of the what's it called? The safari truck ride, which is just in this building in front of us, just here, which might just be able to make out through the edge of the building. So yeah, like I say, one of the 2 current confirmed track rides, which is the train and yeah, the safari jeep. As I mentioned before, these 2 screens are generated depending on what animals are in the enclosure, and the more education you upgrade your zoo, so the more research you do, the better the information on those screens and the better the information the guests are given. Okay, so we're heading another look here at the Jeep ride as it comes through. Again, you can get some really close-up shots of the animals using this ride for the guests. They're going to get some amazing views, and you can do a little themed experience with this, or just have it through the animal enclosures, whatever you want. Whether I trust one in there with a cheetah, I don't know, but it's a game. They're not going to eat the humans, and you can see down on the left that you can have tunnels and all that kind of stuff to make it really feel authentic and part of the experience. So here we can see a few more shots of the animals as we go through this. Again, level of detail on the cats, it's incredible, it's gorgeous. They look beautiful together. I wouldn't trust one in there with me, because I think it'd rip my face off. And there was another quick look there of one of the enrichment items. So over to the chimps. So I briefly touched on this in the last spotlight video we did, but everything in this enclosure that you can see, all the climbing frames and everything in here, again, is piece by piece, and it's made as separate pieces. So the chimps and the AI of the animals will know exactly what they can and can't climb on, what they can jump to. So yeah, you can make literally unlimited amounts of different structures and different enclosures. The animals will jump on everything you make. So obviously the crucial thing for that is making sure that you don't have anything at the edges of enclosures, which means they can't escape. But yeah, everything here, like I said, is piece by piece, and they will just learn to jump and climb on it. Currently, from the sounds of it, you can use different types of trees, you can use all these theming pieces, the logs and sort of rocks and all that kind of stuff. And again, depending on the animal, will depend what they will interact with. And then I believe these kind of chimps don't swim, they don't like water, so to put a boundary of water around the whole enclosure will sort of keep them in naturally anyway. But again, it depends on the species, it depends on the animal, but that's just one way to keep them in somewhere rather than using a fence. So another overview of the entire kind of savannah zoo that's been created here, and it just gives you that impression and that depth of how big you can make these enclosures and how big you can make these zoos. And it really, really does look amazing, the amount of scope you can do. And here is something else. So from the big enclosures down to the tiny, tiny ones, this is how it works in terms of your sort of insects and your dragons and all your reptiles and that kind of stuff. So here is an enclosure indoors, which is an iguana, and this shows you very, very easily how you can make indoor enclosures like this, and how you can easily customize them as well. So here it gives you their idea for what humidity and temperature levels they should be in, and then this is how you change the temperature in that enclosure. Same for the humidity. And also for the enrichment items in these enclosures, it is a simple click on the menu, and it gets there in a second, jumping ahead. But yeah, so you can overview to see what the enrichment items they want, and also layout of their enclosures, and you can pick different things to make them all look unique. So here are the different levels of enrichment, and also the different types of lighting as well you can put in there. So really make these look unique. You could have a room full of these things, and everything will look unique, as I keep saying. So it's great to see that we've got even these small things. I'm assuming the fish and aquariums will be in here as well. They'll probably work very similar. Snakes, spiders, all that kind of stuff will probably again work very similar to this. So yeah, it's great that you can have a different type of exhibit rather than just being the outdoor kind of animals. So here's a quick look at the atmospheric conditions menu that we talked about earlier. So this gives us the different weather. So we've got, I assume, random weather at the moment. Then we've got, that looks like what? Just nothing. That's just general sun, I assume. Then we've got cloudy, rainy, and snow. At the bottom there, we've got the slider to change it to different times of day. Or in the middle, you can just choose your time, as you can with Planet Coaster. So this gives us a good overview of what rain looks like, and also shows you how the animals react. So anywhere which is in cover, so whether that be under an enclosure, a tree, a bridge, a natural roof, a rock, a cave, whatever that is, the animals will know where they can get out of the rain, and they will seek shelter. Obviously only the animals that don't like the rain. So yeah, they will seek shelter. They know exactly which areas they can get to, and obviously the guests will also want shelter. They'll buy umbrellas. So yeah, it's really great to have an actual weather system finally in a game. We've been wanting it in Planet Coaster for so long, but as you can see here, all the animals rush under the shelters to hide away. They don't want to get wet, so yeah, they hide. And you can see in the background you could see in the background the guests with their little umbrellas. So really, really well done. I'm so happy that they've added weather in. It makes it so authentic, and I think it's needed in a game like this. It works well in Jurassic World, and it worked well here as well. So that is pretty much it. Well, that is it for the footage. It's about a 17-minute long video that is a kind of edited down gameplay from a zoo that they've created in the brand new Planet Zoo games. That's all alpha footage, so like I said, things are probably going to change, but it looks absolutely incredible. There is such levels of depth in this that I didn't even think were possible in a game. Like how they've even managed to make the chimps know what they can and can't climb on. They've done such a good job on it. They really have. So that's my little overview of this footage. I'll put my full thoughts, I think, from everything that's been released in another video when we sort of sum up everything from E3. But as a very quick summary, I am so excited for this. Probably more so than anything else in the past, I don't know, 10 years. I've been looking forward to Final Fantasy VII, the remake, for years and years and years, since even before it was announced, when it was just rumoured. But I think this kind of overshadows it, and for anybody who knows how much of a fan of Final Fantasy VII I am, for a game like this to take the kind of excitement level ahead is a big thing. So I can't wait for this to release. I can't wait to get playing in the beta. They have released the pre-sales now, so you can pre-order this game through Steam or the Frontier Store. There is a standard version and a deluxe version. The deluxe version gives you beta access and also a few special things like a couple of unique animals, wallpaper, and also the soundtrack. I've already pre-ordered that copy. Whether Frontier give me access or not for being here on YouTube, I've already bought it and supported them, and I hope a lot of you guys do as well. And like I said, if you want to get that beta access and all the special stuff, make sure you get that Deluxe Edition, which is available now. So guys, that's going to do us for our extremely long video today. I apologise it's so long, but I need us to get everything in and we need to talk about it. So if you want to stay up to date with all of the latest Planet Zoo content, don't forget to subscribe and like this video to stay notified and stay up to date with all of our content. If you fancy a chat, head over to Twitter and Discord, and if you want to help us out, do that by going to the Patreon page. All the links are down below in the description. But for now guys, thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, bye.